Hey everyone, happy Sunday to you. I hope all is well. I hope you're settled into the course. So we're already at week 4. We're a quarter of the way through at the end of this week. Time's flying. I'm telling you, it happens every time. Um, so a couple of things to start off with is good job on the bonus points for those that did them. Well done. I'll put a couple more of those up throughout the semester, and about halfway through, I'll open up some extra credit options as well, like full-on assignments. Remember, on the extra credit, you won't be able to replace a 0, but you'll be able to bring up any grade. So there's that. Your DBs, good overall, but you need to really pay attention to the details, to the instructions, in fact. And several of you didn't reply to your peers, and you're going to lose points for that every single time. The APA, pretty good across the board. I've asked a couple of you to meet with me via Zoom, so I hope you will follow through with that. Because I need to walk you through, because guys, I've cited the textbook for you. There's no reason not to copy and paste that and use it. But just something you need to know about citations is if you have to cite your work both in the writing and at the end of your work. Now, all of you did that and did a pretty good job of that, but you cited the textbook at the end but didn't use it in the writing, and then you used something in the writing but didn't cite it at the end. Right. And so, yeah, please reach out to me and let's do a brief Zoom so I can walk you through those things. Other than that, overall, the content was really good. To wrap up the biopsychosocial model, I think it explains, for me, it explains why there's not one answer, why there's not one fix, why there's not one cure, why there's not one thing that's going to make an SUD better, right? It's not one doctor, one counselor, one group, one treatment, one shot, one pill, one psychiatrist, one therapist. It's a combination of multiple things depending on that person's genetics, their psychology makeup, their socio-environmental experiences. So it really is so many variables in there, and it really, for me, it offers a great explanation as to some insight as to why one thing may work for one person and not for another. So moving on to this week, your first paper is due, and it's on the 12-step philosophy. You can go to an NA, Narcotics Anonymous, an AA, an Alcoholics Anonymous, a CA, a Cocaine Anonymous, an Al-Anon, or an ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families meetings. And all of these links are in your resources in Blackboard. You can go online or in person. I would certainly encourage you to go in person where you can. A couple things you need to note is you need to go to an open meeting, meaning they're open to everybody. Closed meetings is for the people who have the SUD, right, or members of this group. Don't take notes in the group. That just don't do that. Also, be respectful of their norms, right? And you don't have to say anything. You don't have to share anything. Just be respectful of their programs. Whatever you do. Again, I'm going to encourage you to, if you are a member of one of these groups, go to a different group. If you are not a member, go to any group you want. The idea is about having a new experience, and that's what we're going to write about. So I'll readdress the paper here at the end, but I want to talk about 12-step philosophy a little bit. 12-step philosophy believes in the medical model, meaning you have the disease concept, that they believe that when in 1930, let me back way up. These programs started from Alcoholics Anonymous. That's the grandfather of all of them. And that program was developed in the 30s. They said in their book, they have a textbook called The Big Book. I've cited that as well for you in your resources. But it says that when people who have they call them alcoholics. I'm not going to use that label for my clients, but for this conversation, I will. When the alcoholic drinks, they have an allergy and their body reacts different, their brain reacts different. Well, science has since caught up to that and said, oh yeah, no, it hijacks our brain, classifying it as a brain disease. And so there's lots to, I think in that slide I may have put up for you for the biopsychosocial model, may have had, I'm looking right now as we're talking, it may have had what am I trying to say? The definitions of what recovery is or isn't, and what the definitions of SUD is and isn't. Let me look here. I'm sorry. Let's see. And so with that, yeah, no, it didn't. I didn't put that up, but maybe I'll put that up in an announcement for you. So that it hijacks our brain, classifying it as a brain disease, and most professionals would agree with that. There's mounds of research to support that, but of course, like anything, there's research to support most things. But the majority of the research does support this. That said, they believe you admit you have this problem. You come to these groups for support. You become a member of this group. You work this 12-step philosophy, this 12-step model of living. And it's a solid model, I got to tell you. And then you look at self. You look at what they call character defects. I again wouldn't label them that today as a clinician, but in that self-help setting, you look at your issues and your concerns, what your part of the problems are. You make amends to people, you find a higher power. And just FYI, this program came directly out of the Bible. Now, they'll tell you they can separate spirituality and religion because they want it to be all inclusive. If you look at the original manuscript of their big book, it says God, not God as you understand him. Today, it's God as you understand him because, again, they wanted to be all inclusive, so it makes sense. The idea is then you work with other people in recovery. Right. And so you help someone else at that point, and that's how this program works. Solid philosophy. Take away the alcoholic part, and it's a solid philosophy of living. It says, be a good human, control the things you can control, practice acceptance on the things you can't, live in gratitude and live in the moment. Solid philosophy. I use this philosophy with every one of my clients in some form or fashion, even those without an SUD. So in Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous, they use the language of addict, alcoholic. Fine. In that setting, it's wonderful. So it's not, I would never try to correct that in that setting. But remember, in a clinical setting, we use different language for a number of reasons. We know better. We know it's got a very negative connotation to it. And as I've explained in other videos, if you come in my office and are like, well, I'm not sure if I have this problem or I don't know. And I say, well, it sounds like you're an alcoholic or an addict. You're probably not coming back. How have I helped you then? It's not, right? So remember this phrase, unconditional positive regard. That's how we want to treat our clients. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't skirt around the issue. In fact, my reputation in this industry is I'm very direct. I'm direct with love, but I'm very direct about it. So you can say this is an issue, right, without using the terms like alcoholic or addict. So keep that in mind as you go through here. It's a wonderful philosophy. Al-Anon is AA's sister program for family members or friends of the drinker, right, of the alcoholic, if you will. Narcotics Anonymous has one too called Nar-Anon. I believe that's on there as well. And then ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families, is a group that I will send somebody to that's ready to do some work. It's a great group, but it's not for everybody. And so you have to get to know these groups before you start recommending them to your clients. So my hope is that whatever you choose here, if you choose to go to AA, then you'll eventually visit an NA meeting. If you choose NA, you'll eventually visit an ACA meeting. You need to know about all of these groups. You don't need to know every single thing about them by any means, but you need to have a general idea of their principles and working models, right, of their norms and how they operate. You can really only get that by experiencing it, because our job as LCDCs is to know these resources. Excuse me. How am I supposed to refer something to a client and match this client up to this spot if I don't know anything about it? So we as LCDCs, I'm going to say this throughout the semester, we are as good as our resources. So it's an important part of our job. It's an ethical responsibility we have to know these resources. I don't know how else to say it other than it is our responsibility. So I encourage you, no matter what the assignment is here and what you choose, that you decide to look at other options later. That would be my hope, because it is, like I said, our responsibility. So that brings me to the paper. You have to follow the instructions to the letter, guys, if you want the points. Otherwise, you're going to miss points, and I don't want to see that happen. So just follow the word counts, follow the APA writing. If you need some help, please reach out. It's got to be a minimum of 2 pages, 2 to 3. right? Can't be 1 3/4 that you're going to lose points, as the rubric in the syllabus states. 12-point font, double spaced, citations a must. There's a student example paper in there. You got to have a title page and a reference page. I would encourage you to visit that page, that paper in the APA samples in Blackboard. It's exactly what you need. Again, I've cited the textbook for you. I've cited the big book. I've cited some other books. No reason not to use them. Yeah, so that said, is then you'll write this paper. I will give you individual feedback on the paper. Like your DBs, I typically won't. I'll just do a video kind of recapping. But I will give you individual feedback on your paper. And it usually takes me a day or two to get them graded. Not much. I know it's important. You want to get your grade back right away. And then week 5 is just a summary of your paper. So you can't do week 5 if you don't do week 4. I need you to hear that, right? If you don't turn your paper in, you can't possibly do a DB on your paper. Because again, the idea is you turn your paper in to me, I'll give you feedback, and then you share your paper with your peers through a DB format. So you can't copy and paste your papers. You just summarize your papers. No reason to reinvent the wheel here and use new resources. Use everything from your paper. Just cite it and put it in DB format. 200 to 250 words, reply to 2 of your peers. So it should be super easy the following week. Lastly, on the papers, I don't want to hear about the history of the program. Don't take paragraphs with, in 1935, this program was made and blah, 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 blah. I know all that. I've just shared that with you. Right? I want to know about your experience. Again, read the instructions in your syllabus about what we need from this paper. I want you to write about your experience from looking for the meeting to the norms of the meeting, to the process. Do you think it's helpful? Do you think it's hurtful? Do you buy into the philosophy? What's your experience? That's what I want this paper to be about. Yes, you have to support some things with 2 resources, textbook being one. This is as simple as stating, according to, Caldwell 2021, AA is the most heavily attended self-help group in America. There's your resource for that. Simple. Again, you can reach out to me if you have some questions or concerns, but I really want to reiterate, you'll lose points if you send me half a page of history or comparing programs. I mean, if you want to put a sentence in there, fine, but I don't need all the filler. Right? That's not what I'm asking you for, so I need you to hear that, guys. Otherwise, then your next quiz will be on a very important chapter in week 6 on co-occurring disorders, and we'll talk much more about that as we get closer, but keep this in mind too, and looking ahead, because we're already at week 4 here, so time flies, is you have 2 more meetings to attend after this. Everyone will go to a Smart Recovery meeting, and most of those are online, for your next paper in week 8. And then in week 12, you'll have a choice of Celebrate or Refuge Recovery. Excuse me. But be thinking ahead about those. I would encourage you not to wait till the last minute for that, because anything in life can happen, right? So just be thinking ahead on those. I look forward to reading about your experiences. And as always, if I can be of any help, don't hesitate to reach out.